Welcome to the WTH Show. We have a good show for you guys tonight. We've uncovered the truth about D.R. Horton Homes in 2024. You won't believe what we found.
All right. Let's do this. Welcome to the WTH Show. What's that mean? What the hell? We share customer experiences gone wrong and the few that got it right. We are a place to vent, get advice, and help if we feel we can make a positive impact. Know that you are not alone. If you or someone you know had a problem with a business and want to be on the show, please go to WTHshow.com. Then click on Start Here.
So this is the fourth and final, I promise, episode on D.R. Horton Homes. DRH is one of the biggest names in the home building business. In this podcast, we have a seasoned realtor, DeeDee Cunningham, from the Greensboro, Winston-Salem, North Carolina area. She will share her honest reviews and insights on D.R. Horton Homes and production builders in general. This will provide valuable information for anyone considering purchasing a property from this renowned builder. Gain a professional perspective on the quality, design, and overall value of D.R. Homes in 2024 and beyond. Whether you're a first-time home buyer, let's be honest, you're about to sink a bunch of money into this investment, probably a lifetime's worth of investment, or seasoned investor, somebody that knows their money and worries about it. This review will help you make an informed decision when choosing your next home. Watch now, listen now to learn more.
Alrighty, allow me to introduce DeeDee Cunningham. Again, she's a licensed realtor up in the North Carolina, South Carolina, and you're licensed in Virginia, correct?
No, just North Carolina and South Carolina.
Alrighty. I've worked with DeeDee since the early 2000s when we both worked for a production builder. Very upstanding individual. She graduated from college with an architecture degree. You won't find very many realtors with that. Her first job was working for an architect drafting residential and commercial plans. Her second job was a city inspector for the city of High Point, North Carolina. Yep. So she knows how that whole operation happens behind the scenes. We're going to get into a little bit more detail where she's going to give you some valuable advice and how that process works. She was a director of purchasing as well as a director of land management. Not an easy job, but she understands how things progress within a city, how they acquire land, etc. And she's been a realtor since 2007. Do I have that right, DeeDee?
Yep, you sure do.
Alrighty. And clearly an all-star, according to, I'm just going to cut to the chase, the zillion awards I always hear about, or I go on your webpage every once in a while, and it's just like, welcome to the show, DeeDee.
Thank you, my dear.
Yep. So Dan, back to you. Let's just do a quick rehash because I know you love to do it. I do. On the whole.
You're just setting me up for the comments. Got it. So DeeDee, thank you for joining us. Teddy, you got to do something about the glare, dude. You got like Peyton Manning size head. It's glaring me out at this point. You got to find some lush tone. Anyway, for the people that know me, and there's like 3 people who do, you know I hate repeating the same damn thing. I'm obsessive compulsive. It kills me. But to give some backstory for those people that are not among the 11 who listen to the early episodes, Better Business Bureau, a 1.11 out of 5 for 522 reviews. Better, ConsumerAffairs.com, for consumer reviews, 1.4 out of 5 out of 1,563 reviews. PissConsumer.com, Teddy's favorite website, other than Grindr and Pornhub. Customer reviews, 1.5 out of 5 stars from 360 reviews. So clearly, we have a company that there are a bunch of consumers out there that have bought from them and a bunch of consumers that are genuinely not happy.
So I forgot one resume item for DeeDee, and it is a sense of humor.
So
DeeDee, let's get to the first question. Yeah. Does a realtor consider the online reputation of a builder or legal status of a builder before going out and looking at homes?
I think some realtors do, and I think some don't. I mean, more seasoned realtors may have those conversations with their clients, and some of the newer realtors may be like, oh, I want to sell a house. I do typically direct my buyers to various websites when they say, I want to look at these homes. And I'll say, oh, well, those builders have websites. You might want to check out these sites. Here's some other sites you might want to consider. I have to be careful what I say. However, when somebody's looking at a builder that has a questionable reputation, I might say, you know what, wink, wink, you really want to check out these websites. And I'd specifically make sure to pull up the builders we're looking at. I want to make sure you're comfortable with what you're getting and the quality of work that those builders are going to do for you and have done in the past.
All right. So it's obviously a little bit complicated. And then you have laws, rules, and ethics that you got to
you can't steer. You can't say, well, I would never buy from them, so you shouldn't, or things like that. I walk a pretty questionable line sometimes when it comes to things like this. And there is a place for, first-time buyers and first-time builders. And I want to make sure they're getting what they need. And a lot of them can't afford much more, and this is the next best thing to an apartment.
Being present for inspections as you go through the building process. Is it allowed? Does it violate a contract?
No, I'm there for what they call the pre-drywall walkthrough. I'm always there with my clients. I've got a copy of the contract. I've read it before I go out there. I'm making sure that everything that's supposed to be behind the walls is behind the walls. I'm looking at things because as a licensed contractor, there are things that I'm going to see that your average agent isn't. And there are times I point things out to the superintendent and I make sure to do it in front of my clients. Hey, what about this? Shouldn't you have a, double support under that double joist? I know you passed, your inspection, but isn't that really where you should, have your support? Just because the building inspector missed it doesn't mean you shouldn't do it right. And there's a lot of times little things get picked up. So we catch a lot of those things before the drywall goes up. And then about a week or two before closing, we do our blue tape walk. And I'm going to tell you, I spend a lot of time. I show up with my own blue tape, so we have plenty of it. I show up with a flashlight so I can shine up the sides of the walls because good lighting shows all your imperfections. And then a lot of times I'll take a video through the house and encourage the buyers to do the same thing because you don't just want blue tape to disappear and you don't want to forget what you marked. And so I also take pictures of everything. I take pictures of the lists that we make so that nothing gets overlooked. And I make sure to send copies of those out to everybody the day after the walkthrough. It's an accountability thing. I just don't trust people to have things disappear.
And that's one thing that I didn't bring up talking about a resume, or I mean, it's not even a resume. It is DeeDee's. I've had experience in buying and selling multiple houses with DeeDee, and whether it's an existing house or new construction, I'm going to keep saying it, and I don't mean to keep putting feathers in your hat, DeeDee. It's reality.
It's okay.
To be it's reality. DeeDee is very detail oriented. Her background in inspections, her experience from a mid-level to upper-level management at a production home builder, this is what makes her so valuable. And if I was willing to bet, often these root causes of what you see for reviews for specifically DR Horton or any of the high-volume production builders has to do with they don't have good realtor representation, or they didn't have a realtor. They're just using a sales consultant from the production builder. Right. And now you got a little bit of a conflict of interest.
Yeah, or you have no representation as a buyer. If you're using the builder's rep, you have no representation. None.
Exactly. And that's where, if you can, guys, get a DeeDee Cunningham or call her up if you're in North Carolina or South Carolina, because you need that kind of representation. She'll wear you out with details, but it's worth the money. She'll.
Hey, the builder typically pays me, but we're getting into a whole new realm here. But
sorry, that's why I always said we got questions, DeeDee, and we're probably going to come off the rails because it's just a good discussion, right?
I'm off the rails.
So that's probably the biggest thing that I really wanted to cover is some of the things you could do. But I think we're landing on if you got a real good realtor, and you're not just using the sales consultant that's from the builder, you're going to mitigate a lot of these issues. I think
Well, and
that's where we're landing.
here's a perfect example that we ran into recently with this particular builder. So we were representing a buyer, and we went out and we did our walkthrough, 2 weeks before closing, and there was this huge crack in the garage. And it didn't just crack. I mean, it was more than a quarter inch, and there was vertical shifting in the garage. And that's not good when it comes to concrete. And they said, oh, well, we're just gonna, drill that out and put in a little filler. It'll be okay. And we're like, whoa. You can't just drill out vertical shifting. It's one thing to have a little crack, but vertical shifting, that's a structural thing. And so you have to know what you're looking at, and you have to understand construction. Other realtors would have been like, oh, yeah, okay, they're going to address that. That's great. No, it's not great. It's not how you address that problem. That's a structural problem. And it was something that we held their feet to the fire to get fixed correctly. But you also have to go back to the what I call good workmanship, characteristics, that you go to the North Carolina General Contractors Licensing Board and you look at what's considered good workmanship and not, and you have to know where to look. And then you hold it up and go, guys, this ain't going to cut it.
So that one incident, did it get corrected, or was it something that they backed out of the contract? Can you back out of a contract in a scenario like that?
The buyer did actually want to get back out of that contract. They did not, and they were not able to without losing a significant deposit. We actually had to go back and forth a number of times with the builder on that. It did get corrected, but it was not without much back and forth and a threat to make a complaint to the Homeowner Recovery Fund for the North Carolina General Contractors Licensing Board.
We're back to DeeDee's experience on how to handle that.
Yep.
Sorry, it's just coming out of me again.
It's
I'll
okay.
Just leave it alone there.
I like it. Keep it up.
Yeah. So the quality part.
Yeah.
I think that's a whole nother issue. It's going to take a realtor with some good experience to work through the quality issues with any production builder, not just DRH. Market impact. We've brought this up on the show. Have you seen where a production builder, and if this is out of bounds, we can strike it, where there's a market impact where you don't see as much appreciation from a production builder as you do maybe not so much of a volume builder?
When I run comps, I never run comps of a DR Horton neighborhood with other neighborhoods. It's either a DR Horton neighborhood with other DR Horton neighborhoods or other neighborhoods of the same similar builder. You can't run, semi-custom with box builder type folks. So I do see that they don't increase in value as quickly as custom homes. They have their niche, but they're not rising in value to the same comparable level that other higher end custom homes are for that very reason.
Okay. That makes sense.
Yep.
Well, I think it's also the next buyers that come in, how can that appreciation happen at a different trajectory than others, right? Meaning who's gonna buy the pre-owned home. That's a whole nother discussion that we don't need to get into, unless you want to have an economist on here, and then we can really lay it out, huh, Dan? I'm joking.
You want to get an economist on here? Yes.
Yeah,
people will be banging down our doors looking for that podcast.
Okay.
It's the most thrilling conversation ever.
Yeah.
And then let's go ahead and move on to pricing. In general, is DR Horton and Lennar, I'll just throw Lennar out there, are they generally the low price leader, and are they just focused on first time home buyers?
There's a couple other builders in our neighborhoods that have come in recently from Charlotte and Raleigh, kind of working their way into the Piedmont Triad, trying to get a foothold in our market on what I would call the entry level buyer. And it's more of that, and it's also a price point. Our higher end customs here are running, $250, sometimes 300 square foot. If you're working on a DR Horton, I mean, you're coming in $100 a foot less than that, so they're finding a niche, a price point that custom builders can't touch, and they don't want to touch, to be honest with you.
Well, it's just, are they the low price leader? And I think you answered it. They have their niche
Yeah,
at the lower end because
yeah,
they have the efficiency. They're buying, and you and I could talk about this for hours, but they're
yeah.
buying mass amounts of land to get that land cost per lot down.
So their per acre yield is higher. They're building the same house with 6 different elevations. One on this left elevation, one on a right elevation, and a few tweaks here and there. They've got it down to an art. I mean, they have no scrap. They almost know every single piece of wood that has to go in everything. I mean, they can't be any more efficient. That said, they also have their niche in subs. They get the subs that'll work for the best price, and they just take them from A to B to C to D, and they keep them busy. And they basically say, if you don't want to do this, that's fine. We can find somebody else who wants to do it. So, they're not necessarily getting the best guy, but they're getting the fast guy and the guy that needs the work. So, I joke when I say you get what you pay for, but you kind of get what you pay for.
Yeah, I just had other things like go into my head when we used to work together on that same subject.
I'm circling around that, but not jumping in that pool.
I know. There we go. So that brings me to the next one. Are there any standout features, positive or negative, that set D.R. Horton apart from other home builders? Is there some type of like little niche that they just do better than the others?
I can tell you don't send your home buyers to their communities without yourself, because I can't tell you how many times one of their reps has tried to not pay an agent. They're not.
Mm.
Yeah, they have what's called a sign in, and if they visit, even to talk to them, just to get information because they're in town for a day or whatever, if they sign in without you, they will go to the world's end not to pay you. Even though you've shown
So,
these other people 25 homes and spent 5-6 weekends with them, DR Horton will push to not pay.
yeah, so I'm going to put my opinion in. This does not reflect upon DeeDee at all. I sold homes for a year. And again, this is Teddy's opinion or WTH's opinion. Guys, that's just ethically bad. Anytime you're going to deal with a sales consultant from a large company and you see that play out, get away from that. That's just, they're trying to push out your realtor, that somebody that's a good realtor is going to bring so much value to you through the entire process. Doing that is just bad ethics. And again, that's the stance of WTH and or me, Teddy Von Felt. That is not the stance of DeeDee.
We're all on the
Any,
same playing field. We should be working together for the consumer, not fighting each other.
yes, I totally agree with you.
Yep.
All right, let's move on to the conclusion. And if you just want to walk us down some of the questions that I asked here, if you're going to sign a contract with DR Horton or any production builder, have an attorney review the contract and ask the following questions. Would you agree with that? And then you
And
can
have
just,
your realtor look at it too. I mean, we see contracts all the time. I read every word of every contract, regardless of the builder, because things change week to week.
can you demand to be present at all city inspections as a buyer?
You're never going to know when they're coming out. And right now, city inspections are kind of the bane of my existence. But there is a website where you can go online and you can pull up all of the inspections, all of the comments, who the inspector was, and you can call them and ask their opinion, if you know where to look. But you would never be able to be at all the inspections because you have no idea what day they are or even when they're going to show up that day. That's almost impossible.
Gotcha. And would you like to let us know what that website is, or so I can put it in a link? You can give it to me after the show.
It depends on the municipality, Teddy. Each municipality has
Oh,
their own location, whether it's like City of Greensboro, Winston. There is a place in each municipality where you can go to look for the permits and the inspections. It's all public knowledge.
Yes, but you need to go looking for it. Many people have no idea where.
And you know what? If I was getting a home built by somebody, I would want to go get that information because I would want to know, did they pass their inspections? If they didn't, what was wrong? Did they correct it? Oh, they didn't correct it. How many times did they not get it right? And I'd be talking to them about it, going, what was going on? How come it took 3 times to pass your framing inspection? What's going on?
I would also want to know that inspector to look and see what their history is. Do they seem like they really follow code, or do they seem like they're a little light on it?
Humans are humans, right? Moving on to the next question. Can you demand to have a professional inspector at the final walkthrough?
You read your contract. You have every right to have a home inspection. There is a timeline within these contracts that you can do it, but you do have the right to have a home inspector there. And the last one of these properties I sold, I did have a home inspector there, as well as myself, the buyer, and the superintendent.
If the final walkthrough inspection list items are not fixed before closing and you refuse to go to closing, I think we talked to this a little bit. Can we just rehash that real quick, DeeDee?
Yeah, in a lot of cases, there is a per day DM, a fine, a penalty that a lot of the builders can add to your closing. If you refuse to go to closing, there will be a list of those post closing outstanding items. And don't get me wrong, the superintendent wants to get these things done. But if they're not done, keep them on the list, because most superintendents are bonused based on having clean lists. So don't feel pressured not to put something on a list. Most of the time they don't want it on the list. It's because it affects their bottom line. But if it's not what you want or it's not right, put it on the list, because it's more important that you as a consumer are happy than your superintendent was bonused for something he didn't get done right.
The last question here is, what repercussions do a customer have? For instance, if the items from the walkthrough are not complete many months after closing. That is the biggest complaint I think that we see, that they promise that they'll get these done soon after closing, and it's months later and there's still stuff hanging out there.
Yeah, there's supposedly an 11-month walkthrough also, a 1-year fit and finish punch. And honestly, I call it the squeaky wheel syndrome. Keep sending your listen, and then do what most people are doing. If you're really unhappy and you can't get what you need, there's a place online for you to note that so that others can be aware of your experience and learn from that.
Gotcha. Warranty items that don't get fixed, talk about the 11th month walkthrough, right? There's going to be warranty items that have to get fixed. There's many reviews out there that they're 6 months past the warranty and it's still not fixed. Any repercussions for the customer on that one?
Legally, no. I mean, what everybody's been doing as far as online and making their opinions known. Obviously, if your thing from that builder, if your experience is bad, you're not going to do it again. But honestly, I've heard more and more of these coming about, unfortunately.
I'm gonna give the WTH show a plug here. One of our mottos on this show is, at a minimum, you can come on the show and you at least have a place to get it out, and then people like DeeDee are on the show for advice. But at a minimum, we can bring you on the show and we can talk through it and potentially give you some advice on how to handle those situations. And it's so you're not just continuing to type. At least you have somebody to talk to. Final thoughts, guys. Please share your experience in the comments below. We'll invite you straight off the comments to come on the show, or go to WTHshow.com and then click on start here. Final thoughts, Dan, before we get into the contact information for DeeDee.
So first, DeeDee, thank you. Thank you for being a supporter of your customers, your clients. Thank you for being caring and honest and really defending the customer at the end of the day. One of the things that I locked right onto was when you're talking about the per day DM. So for me, I have no kids. My wife and I don't have kids that aren't four-legged or scaled or winged or you name it. As long as they're not living, breathing humans, we have them in this house. But I'm picturing that couple who just they want to buy their first house, and husband and wife, and she's carrying her first baby, and here they are. And I'm trying to picture what that kind of existence would be if all of a sudden you're shelling out $100 per day per diem. And for some people, that's like, well, it's just $100 a day. That's a lot of money.
Yeah.
A lot of money when you consider that that's just leading into the much bigger expense. So I really appreciated you bringing that up, and I think that gives people a lot of thought. One of the other things you brought up that has been a sticking point for me is understanding the minimum code. that code has to be out there for people to get. And just because it's minimum code, does that mean that's the code that a person really agrees with? And I'm sure every municipality has their own code. I highly encourage people to understand what their municipality allows and what you in your own head allows in comparison. Know your code, do your research, know your inspectors, do your research. So, again, thank you for bringing this all out. Thank you for being a defender of of your clients. I really, really appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Went all over the place, but the fact of the matter is, for me, it's such a big deal for people to own their own existence. And you brought up the fact that you can deliver the truth, whether or not they go with it, whether or not they listen. You can't help them, but all you can do is give them your own thoughts and let them make that decision, which could be the biggest decision of their lives.
And at least you feel good having given them the knowledge and the information. You know, I sleep good at night because I know I've done my job.
Yep. I applaud you.
Thank you.
So, DeeDee, where can folks reach out to you?
My website's the best place, and I think you've got it up there, deedesrealestategroup.kw.com. All my contact information is there. I am licensed in North Carolina and South Carolina. So if you need anything in either of those locations, just let me know.
All righty. Sounds good. And then last thing that we will say in closing, this is, again, the final episode of DR Horton. We will be starting a new series next week on HOAs. DeeDee, back on the show. DeeDee and I might throw around a few, my HOA story to just come out in episode 1 with.
I've got one now, too.
No way in hell.
Yep.
Are you still living where you used to live?
Yes. That's my story. It's a good one.
Oh, that's all right. So, yeah, we'll probably come out in episode 1 with that. Alrighty, guys, stay tuned. That'll get us all fired up.
Thanks, guys. Bye.
Thank you. Have a good night. Thank you very much for your time.